Eliza stared at her reflection in the boutique's mirror, adjusting a delicate silk scarf around her neck. The ornate gold frame encased a vision that felt both familiar and foreign. Her auburn hair cascaded down her shoulders, framing her determined green eyes that could pierce through any pretense. She worked at the high-end fashion boutique, a place where dreamers and influencers roamed, where beauty was not just a pursuit but an obligation. Yet, behind her impeccable outfits and poised demeanor lay an ordinary woman longing for something more, something beyond the shimmering surface of her day-to-day life. As she arranged designer dresses on gleaming racks, her mind often drifted to thoughts far removed from fabric and fashion. Eliza possessed an independent spirit, carving out her little world amidst the glitz and glamour, reveling in the tiny victories and mundane tasks that filled her days. Maybe that was why, despite being surrounded by luxury, she often felt like an outsider, as if the universe had reserved something grand for her, something she had yet to discover. The bell above the door chimed, alerting her to a new customer. She plastered on her professional smile, ready to assist. But as she turned, her heart skipped a beat. The man entering the boutique was striking. He possessed an air of confidence that demanded attention, every step echoing with authority. However, it was not just his appearance that made her pulse quicken. It was the unmistakable aura of danger that clung to him like a dark shadow following his every move. "Good afternoon," he said in a smooth, low voice, accentuated by an unmistakable hint of a foreign lilt. "I am looking for a specific dress, for an event." Eliza fought to maintain her composure. "Of course, I can help you with that. What kind of event?" He stepped closer, his presence overpowering, forcing her to meet his piercing gaze. "A gala," he replied, letting the word linger in the air like a promise. "But not just any gala, a gathering of influence and power." As she assisted him in selecting the perfect dress, she could feel her heart racing, something akin to anticipation igniting within. The man introduced himself as Dmitri, but she sensed the name was more than just an identity. It was a mask, hiding layers of complexity and pasts that were probably best left unspoken. There was a magnetism about him, an allure that she knew she should resist, yet every word exchanged felt like a challenge that tugged at her spirit, begging her to step outside her comfort zone. "Are you always this quiet, or is it just because I am a stranger?" he asked, a teasing glint in his eyes. "Just observing," she replied, her voice steady but her heart betraying her, a crescendo of emotions threatening to spill over. Eliza was strong-willed, yet as she stood before him, she felt an inexplicable pull, a curiosity that urged her to discover more about this enigmatic man. "Are you always this quiet, or is it just because I am a stranger?" he asked, a teasing glint in his eyes. "Just observing," she replied, her voice steady but her heart betraying her, a crescendo of emotions threatening to spill over. Eliza was strong-willed, yet as she stood before him, she felt an inexplicable pull, a curiosity that urged her to discover more about this enigmatic man. After what felt like an eternity of exchanging brief conversations, he finally placed the dress he selected on the counter. "I appreciate your help, Eliza. You have an eye for beauty. Perhaps I could use your expertise at my gala." The invitation left her breathless. She instinctively grasped the sleek register as if it were a lifeline. "I appreciate the offer, but I don't usually attend such events." "Sometimes we must step outside our boundaries to discover who we truly are," he replied, his voice unwavering. The words lingered in her mind long after he left, an echo of a challenge she had yet to accept. As the day wore on, the fabric of Eliza's ordinary life began to fray at the edges. In her mind, the allure of the gala danced tantalizingly, mingling with images of Dmitri and his magnetic presence. Tension filled the air, a promise of something extraordinary just beyond reach. She could hardly concentrate on the tasks that lay ahead, her mind consumed by the possibilities of the unknown. The day finally concluded, and her shift ended in a blur of muted colors and soft lights. She walked home, the streets draped in twilight's embrace, whispering secrets of a city that never truly slept. Eliza's heart raced as she replayed her encounter with Dmitri. Something about him had ignited a yearning within her, a whisper of an adventure that beckoned her to take a leap of faith. That night, as she settled on her couch, an envelope with elegant handwriting disrupted the calm of her evening. It bore no return address, only her name written in a fluid script that hinted at elegance. Inside, she found the invitation to Dimitri's gala, adorned with lavish designs that sparkled like the stars outside her window. "Join me in the world of power and influence," it read. The words were alluring yet frightening, pulling at her curiosity and daring her to accept. She closed her eyes, letting the idea settle in. A night filled with extravagant dresses, laughter, and perhaps a man whose presence was already haunting her thoughts. Eliza found herself staring into the unknown, balancing on the precipice of her mundane reality and a world that promised danger and excitement. A part of her screamed to reject the invitation, to cling tightly to her ordinary life, but another part whispered of possibilities yet to unfold. What harm could it bring to step out of her comfort zone just once? Little did she know, accepting the invitation would lead her to a fateful encounter with Dmitri, a man whose connection to the Mafia world would change the course of her life forever. Eliza stood in front of her mirror once more, adjusting the intricate lace detailing of the gown she had selected for the gala. It was a deep emerald green that hugged her curves and flowed gracefully around her legs. Tonight was significant. It wasn't merely another event to attend, but an opportunity to step into a world she had only glimpsed through the eyes of her customers at the boutique. The dress felt like armor, shielding her from the whirlpool of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. As she approached the gala venue, the towering glass building reflected the brilliant city lights, illuminating the night in a tapestry of gold and silver. The front entrance was adorned with lavish decorations, an opulent display that made her heart race with a mix of excitement and trepidation. She could already hear the muted sounds of laughter and conversations spilling out from within, a siren call that beckoned her closer. Eliza stepped inside, her senses engulfed by the rich aromas of gourmet cuisine and the melodic notes of a live band. The atmosphere was electric, and she felt a rush of adrenaline as she mingled among the elegantly dressed guests. Yet, amidst the glamour, a sense of vulnerability crept in. She was just a girl from the boutique, navigating a world where power and influence ruled. "Ah, there you are." A deep voice broke through her thoughts, and she turned to see Dmitri, his presence commanding and magnetic as ever. He looked impeccably tailored in a dark suit that accentuated his stature, with an air of confidence that remained unshaken. "I was hoping you would come." "I wasn't sure if I'd fit in," she admitted, glancing nervously at the crowd that seemed to move with an innate understanding of the social hierarchies at play. "Trust me, you fit in better than you realize," he replied, his gaze sweeping over her, igniting a flicker of warmth in her chest. "Come, there's someone I want you to meet." Before she could protest, he took her hand, leading her through the throng. Eliza's pulse quickened at the contact, the heat of his grip sending waves of awareness through her. They stopped before a circle of powerful-looking men who wore expressions ranging from curiosity to respect upon seeing Dmitri approach. "Gentlemen, allow me to introduce Eliza. She has an eye for beauty," he said, a hint of pride in his tone. Eliza felt the weight of their scrutiny, but she held her ground, reminding herself to breathe. The men nodded, murmuring polite greetings, but one man stood out from the rest. Victor was unlike anyone she had ever seen. He exuded an aura of danger intertwined with charm, his piercing gaze locking onto hers with an intensity that made her heart stutter. His dark hair was slicked back, and his tailored attire emphasized the strength of his build. "Dmitri speaks highly of your taste," Victor stated, his voice smooth yet commanding. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Eliza." The way he pronounced her name sent a shiver down her spine. "The pleasure is mine," she replied, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. Victor's lips curled into a slight smile, but his eyes remained serious, assessing her with an intensity that made her feel both cherished and unnerved. "Are you enjoying the gala so far?" "It's overwhelming," she confessed, glancing around the room filled with laughter and conversation, "but exhilarating at the same time." "That's the spirit," he encouraged, leaning slightly closer. "Life is often a balance of the two." As their conversation continued, Eliza felt an undeniable spark igniting between them. Victor spoke with authority, weaving tales of ambition and power that captivated her. Despite the danger that lingered in his words, she found herself drawn in, captivated by the strength of his character. "The world we navigate demands risks," he said, his tone shifting as he regarded her with a piercing gaze. "But there are rewards for those brave enough to seize them." "I suppose that's true," Eliza replied, her heart racing. "But one must also be cautious. There's a fine line between bravery and recklessness." "Ah, but where's the thrill in caution?" he challenged, a playful glint in his eyes. "Sometimes the greatest treasures lie just beyond our comfort zones." Their chemistry deepened as they exchanged playful banter, the world around them fading into a mere backdrop. For Eliza, it was as if she had stepped into a different realm, where the rules of her ordinary life no longer applied. However, lurking beneath the surface was a sense of danger, a whisper that warned her of the precariousness of her situation. Dmitri rejoined them, his expression unreadable as he observed the interaction. "Victor, I believe you've charmed her enough for one night," he teased, but there was an edge to his tone that caught Eliza's attention. Victor chuckled, the sound low and rich. "Perhaps, but I believe Eliza is more than capable of handling herself." Eliza felt a rush of exhilaration at his words, but a thread of unease twisted in her gut. She sensed that Victor was not just a businessman, he was a player in a dangerous game, and she was unwittingly caught up in it. As the evening unfolded, the tension between them grew, their proximity forcing Eliza to confront feelings she had never anticipated. With each passing moment, she realized that her life was about to intertwine with a world filled with risks, power plays, and secrets that could shatter her ordinary existence. Just then, the lights dimmed, and the band switched to a slow, sultry melody that filled the air, creating an intimate atmosphere. Victor stepped closer, extending a hand toward her. "Dance with me, Eliza." She hesitated, her heart pounding. The invitation felt like a leap into the unknown, a culmination of everything that had been building between them. But there was no turning back now. She took his hand, feeling the warmth of his palm against hers, and allowed him to guide her onto the dance floor. As they moved to the rhythm, Eliza found herself lost in his presence. The world outside faded away, leaving only the two of them, entwined in a moment that felt both intoxicating and dangerous. In Victor's arms, she sensed an exhilarating blend of power and vulnerability, a dichotomy that thrilled her to her core. With each turn, Eliza realized that she was stepping further into his world, a world where her ordinary life would never feel quite the same again. The night had only just begun, and already she sensed that everything was about to change. Eliza found herself caught in an intricate web of emotions as she engaged in conversation with Victor. His words wrapped around her, drawing her deeper into a world that felt both alluring and dangerous. The way he spoke, mingling charm with an undercurrent of intimidation, left little doubt about his power. She could feel the eyes of the other guests lingering on them, as if witnessing a silent battle of wills. Life is often a balance of the two, he had said, and Eliza couldn't help but wonder what kind of life it was that he led. Just as she was about to ask him about his business, Dmitri interjected, a slight tension in his eyes. "Eliza, may I steal you for a moment?" She turned, attempting to mask her disappointment at the interruption. Dmitri led her away from Victor, but she could still feel the weight of his gaze, a lingering heat that seemed to follow her. "Is everything all right?" she asked, looking up at Dmitri as he guided her to a quieter corner of the gala. The music faded into the background, and the laughter of the crowd became muffled. Dmitri's expression shifted subtly, his eyes scanning the room before locking back onto hers. "I just wanted to make sure you're comfortable. Victor is, well, he's not someone you want to get too close to." "Why? He seems charming," Eliza replied, her curiosity piqued. "Charm can be deceiving. Victor is ambitious, and ambition can lead men down dark paths." A ripple of unease washed over her, but she pushed it aside. "And what about you, Dmitri? You're not exactly an open book either." He paused, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. "I have my own motives, but I wouldn't put you in harm's way." Eliza didn't know whether to feel reassured or more anxious. Why did she feel as though she were standing on the edge of an abyss, peering into the unknown? The thrill of Victor's intrigue clashed with the warnings from Dmitri, creating a storm within her. When Dmitri's gaze softened, she sensed a shift in their dynamic. "Just remember, Eliza, you're not just a pretty face. You have a brilliant mind. Don't let the allure of this world blind you." A part of her felt appreciative of Dmitri's concern, but another part craved the excitement that Victor promised. It was intoxicating, almost like a forbidden fruit. "Thank you, Dmitri. I'll keep that in mind," she replied, forcing a smile to mask her inner turmoil. As they returned to the crowd, the atmosphere felt charged. Eliza's heart raced with anticipation and anxiety. Victor was still conversing with a group of men, but the moment she re-entered the circle, he turned to her, a sly smile playing on his lips. "I see you've been having a serious discussion. Was it about me?" His playful arrogance made her pulse quicken. "Perhaps," she said, meeting his gaze head-on. "Ah, I like a woman who isn't afraid to speak her mind," he replied, his tone dripping with interest. "Would you care to join me for a more private discussion? There are matters I'd like to discuss that require your input." Eliza hesitated, the warning from Dmitri echoing in her mind. But the thrill of being chosen, of being invited into Victor's inner circle, overshadowed her reservations. "Sure, I'd like that," she replied, surprising even herself with her boldness. Victor led her through the gala, past glittering chandeliers and over plush carpets, until they reached a private balcony that overlooked the city. The night was alive with lights, twinkling like stars scattered across the ground. "Beautiful view, isn't it?" Victor commented, leaning against the railing, his silhouette framed by the city's brilliance. "Very," Eliza agreed, trying to catch her breath. The moment felt surreal, every heartbeat echoing the gravity of her decision to step away from the safety of the crowd. "I wanted to talk about opportunities," Victor began, his tone shifting to something more serious. "I've been observing you, Eliza, You have a unique perspective on beauty and fashion, which could be valuable to my business." "What kind of business?" she inquired, her curiosity piqued despite the flutter of caution in her chest. "Let's just say that I deal in more than just luxury." His words hung in the air, laden with implications. Eliza's heart raced. "Are you saying?" "I am involved in the underground world, yes, but my operations are legitimate, at least on the surface. There's power in this world that can be harnessed, and I want you to help me navigate it." His proposal felt like a double-edged sword, enticing yet dangerous. "Why me?" "Because you see beauty in places others overlook," Victor replied, his gaze intense. "And because I believe you could thrive in this world if you choose to embrace it." Eliza's mind raced with possibilities. The thrill of stepping into such an unfamiliar territory sent shivers down her spine, igniting a fire of ambition she hadn't realized was there. Yet the weight of his words loomed over her like a shadow. "What's the catch?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions within. Victor studied her for a moment, a flicker of respect crossing his features. "No catch, just a challenge, a short-term engagement to see how you handle the pressure. If you succeed, the opportunities could be endless." The temptation hung in the air between them, electric and intoxicating. Eliza felt her heart racing, a mixture of excitement and fear swirling within her. Could she really step into this dangerous world? Before she could respond, Victor leaned in closer, his voice low and conspiratorial. "I won't lie to you, Eliza. This world can be ruthless, but it can also be rewarding. You have to decide if you're willing to risk everything for something greater than yourself." Her mind was a battlefield, torn between the safety of her ordinary life and the allure of the unknown. The draw to Victor was undeniable, but it came with a cost she was not sure she was ready to pay. "Think about it," he said, his eyes locked onto hers as though he could see into her very soul. "I'll give you a day to consider, but know this, once you step in, there's no turning back." As he stepped back, a sense of finality filled the air. Eliza stood there, her pulse racing, feeling the weight of the decision hanging above her like a storm cloud. One foot in her past, and the other inching toward a future that promised danger and desire. The thought of what lay ahead both thrilled and terrified her, leaving her breathless with anticipation. Eliza felt the cool night air wrap around her as she stepped onto the private balcony with Victor. The vibrant city below buzzed with life, but her heart raced for an entirely different reason. Victor leaned against the railing, his gaze fixed on the view, yet she sensed his attention was fully on her. This moment felt pivotal, like the calm before a storm, and her instincts screamed that something significant was about to unfold. "I've been watching you, Eliza," he continued, breaking the silence. "You have a vision that could elevate this industry. I need people like you in my circle." His words were laced with sincerity, and yet her mind raced with uncertainty. "What exactly do you mean by your circle?" she asked, trying to keep her tone steady. He turned to her, his dark eyes piercing through the veil of the night. "There are opportunities in this world that most people overlook. With your eye for detail and my connections, we could reshape parts of this city." Eliza felt a flicker of excitement at the prospect, yet it was quickly overshadowed by the weight of Dimitri's warning. "And what would that entail?" she pressed, her curiosity battling against her caution. "Influence," he replied simply, "and power. But you must understand, it comes with risks. Those who climb high often have enemies lurking below." Eliza's breath hitched in her throat. She had always considered herself a dreamer, someone who sought beauty in the mundane. not someone who would be involved in a world riddled with danger. "What kind of enemies are we talking about?" she asked, her voice slightly unsteady. "Those who betray trust," he said, a shadow passing over his features. It was fleeting, but Eliza couldn't ignore the hint of pain that flickered in his expression. "Loyalty is everything in my world, and when it's broken, it can lead to severe consequences." His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken threats. Just then, a noise from inside the gala interrupted their conversation. The sounds of laughter faded, replaced by a rising tension that prickled the air. Eliza instinctively turned, her instincts urging her to return to the safety of the crowd. Victor, however, placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Stay close," he commanded, his earlier charm replaced with a fierceness that sent chills down her spine. In that moment, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. A commotion erupted from within the building, and Eliza's heart raced. "What's happening?" she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Victor released his grip, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the interior, the tension in his posture evident. "Stay right here," he instructed, stepping back. Eliza felt a rush of panic as he moved away, leaving her on the balcony, exposed and vulnerable. She could see him slip into the shadows of the doorway, a predator assessing the situation unfolding inside. Without thinking, she followed him, her heart pounding louder than the music. Inside the gala, guests were shifting nervously, their laughter replaced by hushed whispers. Eliza spotted Dmitri across the room, his expression tight, eyes darting toward the entrance. The source of the disturbance became clear when a group of men, dressed sharply but exuding an air of menace, stormed into the space. One of them, a tall man with a scar running down his cheek, was yelling, gesturing wildly. "This is a mistake," the man shouted, his voice cutting through the murmur of the crowd. "You think you can just walk away from us, Victor? You owe us. You've lost our trust, and now you'll pay the price." Eliza's heart sank as she realized the truth in Victor's words about loyalty and betrayal. The stakes were far higher than she had imagined. Victor emerged from the shadows, his demeanor calm, but his eyes reflecting a storm brewing within. "You misunderstand," he replied coolly, his voice steady. "I owe you nothing. You made your choice when you betrayed me." The tension in the room thickened, and Eliza felt a chill creep down her spine. This was a confrontation that could erupt into chaos at any moment. The scarred man scoffed, stepping closer, his body language aggressive. "You think you can intimidate us, Victor? You've built a fortress, but I'll be the one to tear it down." Eliza could see the muscles in Victor's jaw tighten, a sign that he was on the brink of unleashing his own fury. "Walk away while you still can," Victor warned, his voice low, almost a growl. Eliza's breath caught in her throat, the gravity of the situation crashing down on her. This was no longer a game, lives were at stake, and she was caught in the crossfire. Suddenly, the man lunged forward, and Victor reacted instantly. Before she could process what was happening, Victor had closed the distance, his movements fluid and powerful. Eliza stood frozen, the world around her fading as she watched the confrontation unfold. The men exchanged heated words, the air thick with tension and unspoken threats. "Victor!" Eliza shouted, her voice breaking through the chaos. In that moment, she found her voice, her resolve hardening. It was as if she was awakening to a part of herself she never knew existed. "Don't do this." Victor paused, his gaze snapping toward her. The fierceness in his eyes softened momentarily, and she saw a flicker of vulnerability beneath the hardened exterior. "Get back," he commanded, but there was a hint of vulnerability in his tone, as if he feared for her safety more than his own. Eliza took a step forward, her heart racing. "I'm not leaving you," she declared, defiance surging within her. She felt a mix of fear and exhilaration as she stood her ground. This was not the naive girl who had stepped into the gala. She was evolving, awakening to the reality of the world she had stumbled into. Victor's gaze searched hers, a mix of surprise and admiration flickering in his eyes. "You don't know what you're getting into," he warned gently, but the tension in his body hinted at a deepening connection between them. "I don't care," she shouted, her voice echoing through the tense air. "I'm not going to let you face this alone." In that moment, the scarred man's laughter rang out, cutting through the charged atmosphere. "Look at this. How sweet. You think you can protect him?" Eliza felt a surge of anger and fear intertwine within her. She was no longer just an observer. She was part of this dangerous world, a world that demanded strength and resilience. With Victor at her side, she was ready to confront the darkness head-on. As the confrontation escalated, Eliza understood that the night would change everything. The bond they shared would be tested, and the reality of Victor's life would demand her unwavering courage. What had started as a night of glamour had morphed into a pivotal moment that would forever intertwine their fates. As the storm gathered around them, Eliza felt a fierce determination rise within her, a resolve to stand by Victor no matter the consequences. As Victor stood firm against the encroaching threat, Eliza's mind raced, trying to piece together the reality of the world she was stepping into. She could feel the palpable tension in the air, a stark contrast to the lavish decorum of the gala just moments before. The tall man with the scar, still shouting, was a harbinger of something dark, something she had only scratched the surface of understanding. "You think you can just walk away from us, Victor?" echoed in her mind, mingling with her pulse. Eliza's instinct screamed at her to run, to escape the suffocating atmosphere of hostility. But as she watched Victor's unwavering composure, a strange sense of admiration washed over her. He was not merely a man of power, he was a fortress, standing his ground against a storm. Yet, in that moment, she caught a glimpse of something deeper, a flicker of vulnerability behind his fierce demeanor. There was a story etched in his eyes, one that spoke of pain and betrayal. "Victor," she whispered, taking a tentative step closer, but he remained focused on the confrontation. "What's going on?" He turned slightly, the tension in his jaw relaxing just enough for her to see the conflict swirling within him. "Eliza, I need you to trust me," he said, his voice low, almost reverent. "This will be over soon." The confidence in his tone was reassuring, yet the fear of the unknown gnawed at her insides. She had never been a part of anything like this, had never witnessed the high stakes of loyalty and betrayal play out in real time. "What if it doesn't end well?" she challenged softly, trying to grasp the enormity of the situation. Victor's gaze softened for a brief moment. "Then I'll make sure you're safe," he replied, the promise hanging heavily between them. As he spoke, the tension in the room began to morph, the hostile energy shifting slightly as Victor's calm demeanor began to permeate the chaos. Suddenly, the scarred man took a step forward, his eyes blazing with anger. "You think you're untouchable? You think this is a game?" Eliza felt a shiver run down her spine, the realization that Victor was indeed playing a dangerous game. "No, it's not a game," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "It's life." Both Victor and the scarred man turned to her, surprise etched on their faces. "Stay out of this," the man growled, but Eliza stood her ground, the heat of the moment igniting a spark of courage in her. Before she could say anything more, Victor's voice cut through the tension. "You're right. This is life. And in life, loyalty is paramount. You betrayed that, and now you face the consequences." The air crackled between them as the words sank in. Eliza understood in that moment that this was more than just a confrontation, it was a reckoning. The scarred man's face twisted in rage, and she could see the cracks beginning to form in his confidence. "Victor," he started, but Victor didn't let him finish. In a swift motion, Victor stepped forward, his presence commanding and formidable. "I'm not the man you think I am. I'm far worse." The scarred man hesitated, uncertainty flickering in his eyes, revealing cracks in his bravado. Eliza watched in awe as Victor continued, his voice steady and resonant. "You tried to undermine me. You thought I wouldn't retaliate. But loyalty is everything, and betrayal has its price." With a final glare, the scarred man backed down slightly, assessing the room with a new perspective. The tension began to shift, the other guests cautiously watching, their breaths held in anticipation. Eliza felt the weight of Victor's words settle around her, and for the first time, she realized the depth of the world he belonged to. It was a world where every decision could lead to ruin or redemption, and she was standing at the precipice of both. As the scarred man turned to leave, he spat one last remark. "You'll regret this, Victor," before storming out, leaving a tense silence in his wake. Eliza turned to Victor, her heart pounding in rhythm with the chaos that had just unfolded. "Are you all right?" He inhaled deeply, the tension in his shoulders easing just a fraction. "I will be," he replied, his eyes searching hers for something she couldn't quite understand. In that moment, the cacophony of the gala faded into the background, and all that remained was the unspoken connection forming between them. "What did he mean by betrayal?" she asked cautiously, wanting to dig deeper into the shadows that loomed over him. Victor's expression darkened slightly, his vulnerability reappearing. "It's a long story," he said, his voice almost a whisper, "one I'm not ready to share." Eliza felt an ache in her chest for the man before her. "But I want to understand you, Victor. I can't just pretend that this doesn't affect me." He stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking. "You deserve to know, but I fear it may change how you see me." "Maybe it would," she replied, her voice steady. "But I can handle the truth. I'm not afraid." His gaze held hers for a long, intense moment, a silent battle of wills raging between them. "You're brave," he finally murmured, admiration lacing his tone. "And that's precisely why I need you." Eliza's heart raced as his words sank in. The allure of his world was undeniable, but so were the dangers. Yet, the warmth of his gaze and the intensity of the moment created a magnetic pull she couldn't resist. "Whatever it is, whatever your past holds, I want to be here," she said, a new determination bubbling within her. "But we have to face it together." Victor's eyes softened, and for a fleeting moment, Eliza saw the man beyond the boss, the protector, and the enigma. "Together," he echoed, the promise enveloping them in a cocoon of understanding and possibility. Just then, a loud crash erupted from the back of the gala, jolting them from their shared moment. Eliza felt her heart lurch as she turned, dread pooling in her stomach. What now? Victor's expression hardened once more. "Stay close," he commanded, the fierce protector re-emerging. "We need to move." Eliza nodded, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Their world had shifted drastically, and as they navigated the chaos together, she felt an undeniable bond forming between them, a bond forged in the flames of danger and desire. As they moved toward the source of the disturbance, Eliza glanced at Victor, her heart racing not just from fear, but from the thrill of standing side by side with a man who was both a powerful force and a deeply wounded soul. Whatever lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain: she was in it with him, come what may. As silence enveloped the room, Eliza felt the weight of Victor's promise hanging in the air, heavy with unspoken fears and uncharted paths. The confrontation had shifted the dynamic between them, peeling back layers of pretense, revealing the raw, pulsating reality beneath. She glanced at Victor, his tall frame still brimming with a commanding presence, yet there was a flicker of something else in his gaze. It was vulnerability, a rarity she had begun to cherish. "Victor," she began, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her chest. "What is really going on? What did that man mean by betrayal?" The question hung between them, charged with tension. She could see the muscles in Victor's jaw clench, the flicker of his emotions playing behind his dark eyes. He took a deep breath, shifting his gaze to the remnants of the gala, where guests were slowly regaining their composure. "Dmitri is a rival," he explained, his tone clipped. "He's been after my territory for months, and this was his last attempt to undermine my authority. He believed he could pit my people against me." His voice held a weight that left little room for doubt, but he underestimated loyalty. Eliza felt a surge of indignation. Loyalty? Is that what all of this is about? A game of power and control? It's dangerous, Victor. She stepped closer, her heart pounding, emboldened by the fire igniting within her. "You're not just fighting for territory, you're playing with lives." His expression softened for a brief moment, and she felt a rush of connection. "You're right, it's more than just power." He paused, his gaze drifting to the city lights twinkling in the distance. "It's about trust. People like Dmitri exploit weaknesses. They thrive on betrayal, and I can't afford to show any." Eliza's heart ached for him. "But what about you? You've built this entire fortress around yourself, yet you're still alone. You need someone you can trust, someone who won't betray you." She reached out, placing a hand on his arm, grounding her swirling thoughts in the warmth of his skin. As she touched him, Victor's eyes blazed with intensity, a mix of appreciation and an unspoken fear. "Eliza," he murmured, "you don't understand the depths of this world. I can't let anyone into my life. It puts you at risk." "Or maybe it's your fear that's keeping me at arm's length," she challenged, emboldened by his vulnerability. "You can't protect me from everything, Victor. I'm not asking for that. I want to be a part of this, to stand beside you." The air thickened with a mix of uncertainty and promise. Victor studied her, his expression a whirlwind of emotions. "This isn't just about us. If you're in for everything. The danger, the chaos. It's not a fairy tale." "I'm not looking for a fairy tale," she insisted, her voice firm. "But I can't just turn my back on this. I can't ignore the man I'm starting to care for, even if it frightens me." Victor's gaze bore into hers, and for a fleeting moment she saw futures unfold in his eyes, both bright and shadowed. "You have no idea what you're asking for," he whispered, the intensity of the moment wrapping around them like a cloak. "Maybe I do," she replied, her heart racing with both fear and exhilaration. "Maybe I'm more capable than you realize." Before he could respond, the tension in the room snapped. The door burst open, and in strode Dmitri, his face a mask of fury and desperation. "You thought I'd let this end so easily?" he spat, his eyes darting between Victor and Eliza. "You've made a grave mistake, Victor. This isn't over." Victor stepped protectively in front of Eliza, the fierce determination returning to his features. "You should have known better than to threaten me, Dmitri," he declared, his voice low and dangerous. "You've crossed a line you can't uncross." Dmitri laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the tension-filled air. "You think this is about a line? You've been playing in my territory for too long. I'll show you what happens to those who betray." Eliza felt a chill race down her spine. "What are you planning?" she demanded, her voice shaking but resolute. The gravity of the situation pressed heavily on her, but she refused to show fear. Dmitri smirked, an expression that sent a wave of dread through her. "You'll find out soon enough. But know this, loyalty is a fickle thing, Victor. It's only as strong as the person who wields it." With that, he turned on his heel and stormed out, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. Eliza's heart raced. "What does he mean by loyalty?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Victor's face hardened, the protective wall he built around himself slamming shut once more. "He's playing mind games. But trust me, Eliza, this is far from over. I'll do whatever it takes to protect you." "Protect me?" she echoed, frustration flaring. "What about us? We can't keep pretending there isn't something between us, or that this world doesn't impact our lives." His gaze softened again, and for a brief moment, Eliza thought she saw the possibility of a future. But then it faded, replaced by the weight of their reality. "I need to focus on the threat," he replied, his voice clipped, pulling away from the connection they shared. Eliza felt a pang of disappointment, but there was no time to dwell on it. "Then let's face this together. If you really think I'm worth protecting, then let me in. Let me fight alongside you." Victor looked at her, a battle of emotions waging in his eyes. "Eliza, you have no idea what you're asking." "Or maybe I do," she countered, holding his gaze steady. "Maybe this is our fight now." The air crackled with tension, the stakes growing higher by the second. Victor hesitated, and Eliza sensed a shift. The world around them was changing, and so were they. In the shadows of danger, amid the chaos that surrounded them, a bond began to forge, one that could either save them or consume them whole. "Very well," Victor finally said, his voice low and resolute. "But know this, there's no turning back." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Eliza replied, her heart racing with both fear and determination. As they stood together, ready to face whatever came next, the path ahead felt uncertain, yet undeniably filled with potential. Outside, the city thrummed with life, oblivious to the storm brewing in the hearts of two unlikely allies, now bound by choice and the promise of something more. As Dimitri's laughter echoed ominously through the room, Eliza felt a chill race down her spine. This confrontation was no longer merely a battle for power. It was a stark reminder of the dangers that lurked in Victor's world. She stepped back slightly, her heart pounding in her chest, but Victor remained firm, a pillar of strength that she found both reassuring and terrifying. "Dmitri," Victor said, his voice low and unyielding, "you've underestimated me for the last time." The tension in the air thickened, crackling with unsaid words and unresolved feelings. Eliza watched as Dimitri's expression shifted from fury to a cold, calculating smirk. "You think you can intimidate me, Victor? I know your weaknesses. You think you can protect her?" Dmitri gestured toward Eliza, his eyes gleaming with malice. "You are blinded by your feelings, and that will be your downfall." Eliza's breath caught in her throat. She wasn't just a pawn in this game, she was now a target. Victor turned to her, his gaze fierce yet tender, a silent promise of protection. "Stay back," he commanded, positioning himself between her and Dmitri. "Protect her? You can't even protect yourself," Dmitri taunted, stepping closer, his demeanor threatening. "This isn't a fairy tale, Victor, and you're no prince." Eliza felt a surge of defiance. "I'm not afraid of you," she declared, her voice steadying as she took a step forward, matching Victor's intensity. You may think you hold the power, but love is stronger than any game of control you play. Victor's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise mixed with admiration. Eliza, this isn't your fight, he murmured, but she could see the shift in his expression. Perhaps he was starting to see her as more than just a woman to protect. Dmitri laughed again, but this time it was laced with disbelief. Love? You think love will save you? In this world, it's a weakness. Love is a strength, Eliza countered, her heart racing. It's what makes us human, and it's what makes us fight. Victor turned to her, the weight of her words settling between them. You don't understand the depths of this world, he said, his voice softer, more vulnerable. You are right, I've built walls around myself, but it's to keep you safe. Or maybe those walls are just a prison for you, she challenged, stepping closer to Victor. You can't isolate yourself forever. You need to let someone in. Dmitri sneered, his eyes narrowing. This is amusing. You think you can change him? He will never change. He is a monster. No, Victor said, his voice firm. I'm not a monster. I'm a man who has fought his demons and learned from his past. I've made mistakes, but I will not let fear dictate my future. Eliza felt a surge of hope. Then let me be a part of that future, she urged, her heart pounding in her chest. I want to stand with you, not behind you. I want to face this together. Dmitri's expression shifted, a hint of uncertainty breaking through his bravado. You think he will choose you over his empire? You are mistaken. Maybe I'm the one who can help him build something greater, Eliza replied, her voice unwavering. Maybe together we can change the game. Victor looked at her, then back at Dmitri, the tension palpable. This ends now, he declared, his voice a low growl. You will not threaten her or anyone else. I will not allow it. Dmitri's laughter faded, replaced by a steely glare. You think you can scare me? You're making a mistake, Victor. Maybe I'm finally making the right choice, Victor said, stepping forward, his body radiating confidence. You've lost. Leave now, and I won't make this personal. Dmitri's eyes flickered with rage, but he could see the resolve in Victor's stance. This isn't over, Victor. I'll be back. With that, Dmitri turned and stormed out of the room, leaving behind a tense silence. Eliza felt the weight of the moment settle around them, the air thick with unspoken emotions. Victor turned to her, his expression a mix of relief and concern. Are you all right? I am, she replied, her heart racing. But we need to talk about what just happened. He nodded, stepping closer, his gaze piercing yet soft. You were incredible. I've never seen anyone stand up to him like that. I didn't do it for you, she said, feeling a rush of strength. I did it for us. I want to be part of your world, Victor, but I need you to trust me. I do trust you, he said, his voice deepening. It's myself I'm unsure about. I've never let anyone in before. Maybe it's time you did, she urged, her heart swelling with hope. We can't let fear dictate our lives or our relationship. Victor studied her, and for a moment it felt as though the world around them faded away. You're right, Eliza. You've shown me that there's more to this life than just power and control. I want to build a future with you, not just a fortress, she said, her voice soft but firm. Let's face the chaos together. He took a deep breath, and she could see a shift in him, a flicker of vulnerability mixed with newfound determination. Then together it is, he said, taking her hands in his. We'll face whatever comes next. Eliza felt a warmth spread through her, the promise of a shared future igniting her spirit. "I believe in us," she whispered, her heart full. As they stood together, the city lights twinkling outside, Eliza knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but they would navigate it together. They were no longer just a mafia boss and a woman caught in his world. They were partners, willing to embrace the complexities of love and life. With a newfound sense of purpose, they stepped into the future, ready to face whatever the world threw their way, united in their love and strength.